Hi, and thank you so much for watching. I'm voice-overing this because the microphone wasn't working when I was filming. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the scaling tool that I have shown you in a separate video how to make, either from wood with basic wood making tools, or even I tried to make one from cardboard and it worked, and I'm also applying it in this video. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to scale, how to transfer something to a canvas. First, I'm showing you that on a live object, like a still life or whatever you want to transfer onto a canvas. And that is much harder. If you only want to transfer a 2D source, like a printout or a sketch, that's much easier. Then you can just skip to the second part of this video. So the absolute most important thing when taking measurements is that your stance is always the exact same when you measure. You can mark your place where your feet are with a painter's tape that I'm showing here, especially if you're going to be walking away. And then you always want to face your canvas perpendicularly, I think it's called. Like what I'm showing here, you don't want to do. You don't want to be moving your torso. You just want to always really face the canvas straight on and stretch your arm out. You also don't want to sometimes stretch the arm and sometimes bend the arm when you're measuring. So I'm showing it here. You're facing the canvas and you're stretching out your arm fully to take the measurement with the smaller part of your scaling tool, and then you transfer the larger part onto the canvas. If you have a screw and a wing nut like I do here, you want to mind how tightly you close your scaling tool because you want to be able to use it with just one hand, the way I'm doing it here. It shouldn't be too tight that you can't do it with one hand and that you need the other hand, because that's going to mess up the measurement. It should also not be so loose that it keeps changing size on you. Also, you always want to take the measurements with your non-drawing hand. You don't want to do that with your drawing hand. And then, like I'm showing here, you would have to switch hands, pencil, and it's going to change up the size of your scaling tool. That's going to be way too complicated. So the non-drawing hand takes the measurement, and you have your drawing hand ready to go with the pencil, so you can just super simply transfer it onto the canvas. Always making sure that nothing changes while you're transferring, so that the scaling tool really stays at the measurement you took. Now, to decide which hole is the right hole to put the scaling tool together, meaning which ratio you're transferring the object to the canvas, you just kind of have to try out which one's the right one. I usually sketch out the object roughly onto my canvas, and then I take my stance the way I showed you, and then I just try out one of the holes and I measure the whole width of the object, and I see whether that turns out to be the right size on my canvas. Now, what I'm showing here now is the most important thing. Do not do this. There is always a tendency to want to do that when measuring. Everything has to stay at 90-degree angles. You're always, the planes have to be straight. I hope that makes sense. So do not do this. So now you see me take the measurement of the whole object, and I'm checking what size that would turn out to be on the canvas if that's what I choose to do. In this case, I actually decided that that was a good size. If I move the screw closer to the short end, the ratio becomes larger. So that means the object on the canvas will be larger. The closer I move the screw towards the center, the more similar sizes they become. I hope that makes sense. Of course, you also want to double check that the whole height of the image is going to fit onto your canvas. And after having done that, we need to find a good starting point. I am choosing this starting point that I'm showing you, that upper left corner of that box, because I need to start somewhere, right? And that is one of the few vertical perpendicular lines in this perspective drawing of this box. So I'm actually here taking on my wonderful ruler, and I'm starting with this perpendicular line. And I just choose where that top corner of the box is going to be. So also you are closing one eye while taking the measurement, and it should always be the same eye, which it probably is anyway. So I've decided where the top corner is going to be. I'm plotting that in, and I'm drawing my very first vertical line because that's the one thing I know for sure. Again, I'm holding everything at 90-degree angles, and I'm measuring that very first edge of the box and transferring it to my paper. Now you should know this is not a super duper high precision tool, all right? But you want to be as precise in taking the measurements as you can. Now to find the angle at which that bottom edge of the box needs to be drawn, that is one of the harder things. So what you see me do, again, it's not super duper precision, but I'm doing my best, and I'm using my scaling tool like so to line up the edge of the box with the scaling tool, taking my stance, making everything as stable as I can, and then I actually move my arm over, not changing the angle, as you can see me do here. Now I suggest you always double check things. Like now I could take the distance from the front bottom corner to the back bottom corner with my measuring tool and see whether that is the same height that I come up with on my canvas. This is not high precision, and if that's what you're after, you are going to have to construct your drawing with vanishing points and all of that good stuff. But this really, it works better than you would possibly think if you really take as much care as you can and double check as much as you can. Also, of course, the more drawing experience you have, the better your eye gets, and the more you can sketch with your eyes and only use the scaling tool for the very rough outlines or for double checking whether your ratios are anywhere near where they need to be. So now I'm just speeding this up so you can watch me finish this. I'm outlining my box now for you so you can see it better. Of course, I would very lightly sketch everything if this was a real artwork. Until I'm sure my lines are all in the correct place. So now doing it from a 2D source, a printout, a photo, whatever you're using, a sketch is much, much easier. You do not have to worry about any kind of stance and keeping distances the same, because obviously it's always going to be the same size on your printout. The most important thing here is, though, to decide whether you're going to be using the edges of your printout for measuring. So that means you would have to make the exact same ratio on your canvas or the big paper that you're transferring it to as it is on the photo, because if you do not have the exact same ratio, your measurements are going to be really, really off. So you would actually, if you're going to be using the edges, transfer the actual size of your artwork very first. The other option is to only transfer the motif, in which case you are not allowed to measure anything from the edges. Now for fun, I'm using this Make Do cardboard measuring tool that I showed you how to make in the other video, in case you do not have any wood making tools. And it works just the same as the wooden one. It's a little flimsier and it closes a little easier, and you have to be more careful about really holding it so that once you have taken the measurement, you're not changing the size while transferring it onto your canvas. So here you see me take the measurement of the height, and I'm determining whether I like that ratio or whether I need to put the scaling tool together with a different hole. So I have decided on the ratio that I'm using, and I'm transferring the outer edges of this onto my paper. You would not want to do what I'm doing here, which is use the upper edge of my paper as the edge of your artwork. It's usually much, much nicer to make the artwork have edges on your paper So this is not nice. This is just me being lazy. Do not do that. Always give your artwork actual edges. So now you just start. If you're only transferring the motif, you decide on a good starting point, like it's like in this case the dog's nose or the dog's eyes, and you place that on your canvas where you want it, and you always measure from there on. In my case, I'm using all the edges, and so I found the center point. I measured the exact center point of the photograph, and I found that on my canvas. I had to push together my cardboard tool a bit so it was sturdier, and that worked fine. And so I just continued from that center point on, but I could also measure everything from the edges as I'm doing here. Like I'm measuring that one eye from the top edge, its position from the top edge, and then from the side edge. And then I also found this place. So I can go from edges and from the center point, and then also from within the motif, you know, from one eye to the other eye. Again, always double checking that things don't get wonky. So now I'm just speeding it up for you. It's actually pretty quick work. It's a little tedious. Don't forget to also use your eyes every once in a while. You don't have to transfer every single dot, in my opinion, but that depends on you. Also, never forget, if your cat wants to cuddle, cuddle the cat. So this concludes this video. I hope it was clear. If it wasn't, or if you have specific questions or suggestions or wishes, please let me know. I appreciate your input. Have a great day. Thank you so much for watching. You can subscribe to my channel, but you can also subscribe to my newsletter on my homepage. And of course, you can follow me on Instagram. If you subscribe to my newsletter on my homepage, you will receive coupons for some of my art that I sell. Soon I will sell originals, but I'm also selling prints, and I'm selling some of my art on products. And you will receive a coupon if you subscribe to my newsletter. So why don't you do that? Everything is linked, and I really, really hope to see you again. So take care.